Bicycle repair toolkits, $30, $350. Not exactly an apples to apples comparison, but we're gonna take a look at them anyway. Let's jump right in. Blow molded case. One of the biggest advantages of a blow molded case is low cost. As far as I know, this is the cheapest bicycle repair toolkit that Walmart sells. That's actually the only thing it has in common with the Feedback Sports toolkit. This too is the cheapest toolkit that Feedback Sports sells, which makes it $350. As I said, the $30 toolkit comes in a blow molded case. Feedback Sports comes in a soft vinyl case. Let's compare and contrast. On a blow molded case, everything is kind of fit into it very rigidly. They just snap in. It's kind of nice because it doesn't rattle around. You can throw it in and out of the trunk of your car, but when you're putting tools away, you gotta push them in. After some years of using it, it starts to wear out. And the biggest disadvantage to a blow molded case is if you expand your toolkit and you get more things, you can't fit everything in it. It's got kind of a place for everything. And these are just really cheap to manufacture. And so budget items will often come in a blow molded case. Unless you're getting like a Sawzall or something, it's kind of a disadvantage. The Feedback Sports toolkit is held closed with a zipper and it opens right up. Very nice. It sort of expands, and as you can see, they left you a whole bunch of additional spots if you want to carry more tools than what the kit comes with. But this toolkit actually has a party trick. This toolkit mounts to a bike repair stand. Now, that might seem a little bit like a gimmick. Why not just lay it out on your workbench? But there are a lot of mechanics that work in the field, either at races or events, and they're trying to make quick repairs to bicycles. Here, you can mount the bicycle to the repair stand and you have most everything you need to repair it. That's a really nice touch, and it took a little bit of testing to make that happen, something you're not gonna get in a $30 bike repair kit. Let's talk about the actual tools you get in these kits. Given the price disparity, there's gonna be a big difference in quality and quantity. Let's talk about quality first. Now, if you look over here at the Ozark Trail bike repair kit, we see some really familiar tools because I've been doing a series on tools from AliExpress. Here, this bottom bracket wrench and chain whip, we reviewed this already. Looks very similar. That's not the only one. This chain tool actually looks very similar, not identical, but very similar. These look like two different tools. They're a different length here. Okay, these are almost definitely the same. Actually, this is a little bit of a different crank puller. Yes, they look the same, but the ones in this $30 Ozark Trail toolkit are actually much, much better. It's not even close. One of my biggest complaints about this bottom bracket tool was the rough edges on the metal. I mean, I can feel these little burrs, and it scratched the heck out of my bottom bracket bearing when I tested it. This one is much better in every single way. The finish on the tool, the little rubber handle, it's like they said, hey, we got to deal with Walmart. Let's make it good. Same goes for the other tools, like this bottom bracket tool over here. You can see the edges are very nicely machined and consistent. The crank puller, although it looks about the same, the threads are much, much smoother. Look, these are not high-end tools, but there was some quality control. They made sure they were not getting complete garbage. And so in looking at this, I think we could actually buy all these parts individually on AliExpress and come to about $30, but we wouldn't have the case. I think they would be lower quality, and we might have to do a little mixing and matching to get them to work together. And so I think this is a pretty good value from what I see here. Now, the Feedback Sports toolkit, as you would expect for $350, has much higher quality tools, and they're very well thought out. They're engineered by Feedback Sports and produced. They're not just sourced and put together into a kit. The finish and the weight and just everything about all these tools is top quality, and that's not a surprise. They better be. It costs over 10 times as much as the Ozark Trail toolkit, but you can buy these once and pass them down to your kids. You can use them at a race. You can actually depend on these tools even in a professional environment. And it seems like they're more ergonomical as well. Like a lot of the hex wrenches are in three-way tools. These are great because you can use the other tools for leverage. You can quickly switch between different tools. If you're in a pit and you're repairing bikes as quickly as possible, these are great to have. And the more I look at this, the more it seems like that's what they were going for, the pit mechanic. Now, if we add up all the tools in this kit, it's kind of tough. Do we count this as one tool or three tools? Do we count this as three tools or one tool? I don't know. I've calculated this to be about $20 per tool. That's a lot, but at the same time, it's in line with professional grade bike tools. And some of these tools are pretty substantial. Like these cassette pliers over here are locking and everything. And so I think it's pretty fair for what you're getting. If we look at the combination of tools in both of these kits, you're gonna see they're designed for different consumers. This is gonna be able to fix just about any bike at Walmart, even some of their mountain bikes that have fairly legit parts on them. But the Feedback Sports Toolkit is gonna be designed more for what you would find at a race, a proper gravel bike, a mountain bike, a road bike, but they both have very similar tools regardless. But something you're gonna need in any bike toolkit is hex wrenches. The $30 toolkit from Ozark Trail gives you a little multi-tool. Probably not a bad idea if you're trying to keep the cost down, and as somebody who might only own these tools, they're not gonna lose any of them. These are not just loose wrenches. Yeah, you don't get the flexibility of multiple wrenches. You're not able to turn something that you need two wrenches for, but you have decent leverage, you're not gonna lose them, and honestly, you have kind of all the sizes you're gonna need here. They even give you a Phillips head screwdriver and a flathead screwdriver. You can remove a reflector, change the limit on a derailleur, something like that. And for bigger jobs, they do give you this 8mm. On our $350 kit, everything's kind of all over the place, but it makes sense. They give you these two bigger wrenches for bigger jobs, a 6mm and an 8mm, and they even have ball ends so you can get in at weird angles. All the other wrenches are on these three-way tools, so as I said earlier, you have the ergonomics and flexibility of being able to switch through tools while still having good leverage. It's also nice that a lot of these are separated because sometimes you have to turn bolts opposite each other. Like the mount on a rear shock, you're gonna need two 6mm or two 5mm, and you have them right here. They thought it through. And on this tool, you even get 3 different torque sizes, which you're only gonna find on higher end bikes. Now the Ozark Trail Toolkit gave us a Phillips and flathead in the multi-tool. You actually get that here too. You get one nice Phillips head screwdriver and not one but 2 flatheads. Part of me is disappointed they didn't just include a set of normal hex wrenches, but it looks to me you kind of have everything you need here, and so I don't think they did too bad. On both toolkits, we have a number of open-ended wrenches. On the Feedback Sports Kit, we have a pedal wrench where you can get to the pedal at 2 different angles. You could also use these for axle nuts. On the Ozark Trail Toolkit, we have a whole bunch of open-ended wrenches because of course they're more common on less expensive bikes. Here we have a 10mm and an 8mm. You're gonna find these on a number of bikes, and we have a number of cone wrenches so you can service hubs and things like that. Now, if you wanted to remove a pedal, I guess you could use this 15mm right here. It looks like this would just fold over. Let's try it. I mean, it works. It's fine. Would it work every day for 3 years? Almost definitely not, but it'll work for the 3 times you have to do it in your life if your main bicycle toolkit is an Ozark Trail toolkit. But let's talk about real world applications. What about removing a cassette? Well, on the Feedback Sports Toolkit, of course, we can remove a cassette. We grab our cassette pliers and our cassette lock ring tool. We grab onto the cassette, and this one actually locks into place so it doesn't fall off of the cassette when you're using it. That's a really nice touch. So now we can hold the cassette still with this tool, and we can use our lock ring tool to turn it. Yes, we can definitely get the cassette off with this. Let's tighten it back on, see if we can do it with the Ozark Trail toolkit. So we're gonna grab our cassette lock ring tool and that 8mm. It's got the big square driver on the end. Then we actually have a chain whip in here. It's very similar to cassette pliers, only it's kind of a length of chain attached to a bar. It is actually quite hard to use this because this is probably an 8-speed chain. It's probably made for much lower speed cassettes. And this is a 12-speed cassette with much narrower teeth. Ooh, this does not feel good. Let's see if I can do it on the small one. I feel like something's gonna come loose and I'm going to gouge my hand open on this cassette. The cassette tool is just everywhere. Yeah, I'm not gonna risk injury. Let me find an older bike with an older cassette and see if we can do that. All right, here's the wheel off my gravel bike. Normal Shimano lock ring. Okay, we can hold it still. Let's give it a good yank and see if it comes loose. Yes. Okay. So some cassettes you might have a little bit of an issue with, SRAM cassettes in particular, but it looks like in a pinch you can remove a cassette with the $30 Ozark Trail Toolkit. Now there are other things you might use a cassette tool for. For example, the lock ring on this rotor over here uses a cassette tool. And you can see if we put this in here, it barely grabs onto it. There's no way we could remove this lock ring. On the other hand, that Feedback Sports cassette tool has a hole all the way through it. It'll go right over the axle nut, fit in really securely, and I suspect, yeah, it's no problem for us to turn this lock ring. And so, little more functional out of the $350 toolkit. Speaking of lock-on rotors, this particular one uses a Hollowtech 2 standard, which actually the Ozark Trail Toolkit has. Let's see. This is so sketchy. I feel like I'm gonna just smash my hand into this rotor. Okay, we were able to turn it. Left some nice scratches on my lock ring. Then of course, the other side of the Feedback Sports tool, I mean, that fits on kind of wonderfully. It doesn't feel sketchy at all either because it's so long. My hand is so far away from the rotor and I can really tighten it down or loosen it, but both kits do it. Let's run through some common repairs. You want to replace a shifter cable. On the Feedback kit, we have housing and cable cutters, and of course you have wrenches, and so you can perform that repair. On the Ozark Trail Toolkit, you're kind of on your own. You're gonna have to use pliers and cutters and stuff that are in your garage, and they may or may not work. Chain repair. Of course, Feedback has got you covered as well. You have here a very nice little chain tool, and you have master link pliers. And so if you want to replace a chain and remove the old one, you could use this to pop the master link out and put it back together. Now on the Ozark Trail Toolkit, all we have is a chain tool. You could technically change a chain out with this. You could take the old one and just pop a link out to remove it from the bike, and then you could pedal it back on. The question is, does this chain tool work? Looks a lot like the AliExpress one we tested that didn't work. Here's a quick way we can tell. 12-speed chain. Feedback Sports just lays down in there no problem, and the pin meets up with it perfectly. This is gonna be a good chain tool. Now for our Ozark Trail Toolkit. They did some thinking here. This lines up no problem, 12-speed chain. It's not the straightest pin. It kind of wobbles around when you're using it. But the purchasers at Walmart did a little bit more work than I did when I sourced my tools off of AliExpress. This works on a 12-speed chain just fine. And so if you wanted to change out a 12-speed chain and size it, you could absolutely use this $30 Ozark Trail Toolkit. Now, when we get into tire and wheel repair, these two kits have very different offerings. If we look at the Ozark Trail Toolkit, the $30 one, you actually do have a spoke wrench that works with every single size. And it's one of those combination spoke wrenches. I've seen these around. The quality looks okay. You could probably use it, no problem. And then we have tire levers. This is kind of the worst kind of tire lever, just those little black plastic ones. As you can see on this wheel, it doesn't even actually hook onto the spoke. Maybe it would on other wheels. But another thing that they offer is a patch kit. A real patch kit with the sandpaper and the patches and the rubber cement and everything. I guess with the amount of patches that are in here, you could save yourself enough money on inner tubes to pay for the kit itself. You can just keep patching them over and over and over again. Now, of course, in the Feedback Sports Toolkit, there is no patch kit because everybody's gonna be running tubeless tires at that level. But they give you some really capable tire levers. I mean, these things are stout. It's metal inside of them, and then they're encased in plastic. And then as you can see, they give you a little pry bar on the other side and a way to hook it onto the spoke. You absolutely get one of those combination spoke wrenches, but this one is heavy and really nicely machined. I could see this working a lot better, and just overall, this would be a lot nicer to hold in your hand. Then they actually give you a dedicated valve core wrench. This is for Schrader and this is for Presta, and it's very nice. This is the kind of valve core wrench you would keep for the rest of your life. Both of these kits also have a preload tool for Shimano cranksets. Surprisingly, the Ozark Trail has one right here, this little plastic guy, and you can put a 6mm hex wrench in it. They actually slid it in on the back of one of the screwdrivers on the Feedback Sports one. This is not as common, but it is the kind of thing you would want to have, and both have included it. Aside from that, you're not going to find many bonus items in the Ozark Trail toolkit, but in the Feedback Sports toolkit, they added some little surprises that I think were nice touches. For example, there is a set of picks. There's a right angle pick and a straight pick. I've said before, I use a pick every single day in my shop. It's one of the most important tools you can have. And yeah, even for somebody at the pits in a race, they included a pick for them to use. And on the other side of the tire lever, there's this little pry bar here that you could use for a number of different things, and it's covered in nylon so you wouldn't scratch anything. Another thing Feedback included was this closed 15mm wrench on the end of the pedal wrench. You'd only use this for something like an axle nut, but it's very nicely machined and it would definitely not slip off of the nut. But another huge surprise in the Feedback kit, truing forks for rotors. If you're at a race and you're doing work on people's bicycles, they get into a crash and knock their rotor out of alignment. This makes it much easier to bend it back. You can do big bends with this one and little bends with this one. This is really nice to have. I actually own one of these tools from Park, but I don't know anybody else who owns one. It's really a luxury. A lot of people just use an adjustable wrench or something, so good on Feedback for including this. Then of course, the kit itself can attach to the bike stand, and that's a really nice touch also that you're not gonna find in a less expensive toolkit. So far, what I'm seeing is that both of these kits have very different tools, but they kept in mind who would be buying each of these kits. In the case of Feedback, a race mechanic or just an enthusiast, somebody who really works on their bike a lot. And the Ozark Trail toolkit is really a starter toolkit to get you off the ground. And the quality is actually better than what we saw on AliExpress. It's a pretty good value. And so apples and oranges, right? But we actually have a whole bunch of toolkits from major brands, and we're gonna put them head to head with each other in another video. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you learned something, and if you didn't, I hope you at least found it entertaining. Thanks for riding with me today, and I'll see you next time.